Welcome. I would like to welcome you to episode 287 of the Unpopular podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. And if you do me a favor, please subscribe to if you're listening. Please subscribe to if you're watching. It definitely means a lot to me. So with week 8 coming and going, of course we got the trade deadline. We'll talk about that. But let's first break down some of these games because I'm starting to see a trend with a lot of these teams. I'll also give my top 5 teams so far this season, seeing as though we're pretty much at the halfway point. But I'm starting to see a trend with a lot of these teams, and I'm starting to see things that, to me, there's a clear-cut best 2 to 3 teams, and the rest is just in the fray, and we'll talk about it. But let's start by breaking down Week 8. So you have the Broncos beat the Jaguars 21-17. To me, this is one of the most. I've never seen how do I say this? The Broncos needed this win a lot more than it's probably one of the most important wins the Broncos have had in years. You have a lot going on with this franchise, whether it's Nathaniel Hackett, whether it's you paid Russell Wilson all that money and then you're not winning. It's just a lot going on. And you heard reports saying that if the Broncos did not win this game, Nathaniel Hackett's job was possibly going to be on the line, which I still don't think that he should be a head coach. You know what? Let me justify something. Well, let me explain something. Because I explain a lot. I say a lot. I don't call for anybody's job. I want everyone to make a living, this and the third. So, in my opinion, or people ask me, Jay, how do you dictate if a person should be fired or not? Or if a coach should be fired or not? Like, how do you put it on the coach more than you put it on the players in some instances than others? I'll give you 2 examples. Let's talk again. The Broncos beat the Jaguars 21-17. This game was really lost because of Trevor Lawrence throwing a bad, turnovers were big. Russell Wilson had a couple big plays. He had flashes of old Russell Wilson. And again, if it wasn't for the turnover towards the end of the game, was really the nail in the coffin for the Jaguars. When you look at, all right, let me talk about 3 teams. I'll talk about 3 teams. So the Raiders lost to the Saints 24-0. Didn't even score. I look at teams and I look at situations, I look at the record, and it's like, what did they look like before you? Or is this more because of you, or is this more because just the team is underachieving? I look at the Broncos. More specifically, I look at Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson has been a top 5 to top 7 quarterback for the last 5 years. He's a 2-time appearing Super Bowl, or he's been to 2 Super Bowls, won one of them. And you're meaning to tell me now? Yes, I understand that players could just not be as good as they used to be. I understand that, but just last year, before the hand injury or thumb injury, I believe, he was still one of, if not, he was on a trajectory to at least compete for the MVP. Now, if you look at Russell Wilson, he looks, I think statistically, he's one of the worst quarterbacks, if not the worst starting quarterback in the league. You're telling me a couple months, you go from arguably being the MVP to what? To arguably the worst quarterback in the league? Then you look at the Raiders. Like I said, the Raiders lost to the Saints 24-0. They didn't even score. And you look at Josh McDaniels. Just like we talk about Nathaniel Hackett, some people are not meant to be coaches. We talk about that with NBA coaches. We talk about that with head coaches or football, NFL coaches. Some coaches are just not meant to be in NBA coach or head coaches. Derek Carr, you can feel how you feel about Derek Carr. You can feel how you feel about, if he is top 10, top 5, whatever. But Derek Carr is a lot better than 2 and 5. Especially when you look at the piece that you have around him. Josh Jacobs, who has an incredible year. Devontae Adams, who's arguably the best wide receiver in the game. Darren Waller, who's a top 3 tight end. Hunter Renfrow, who's a really good gadget guy. You're telling me you have all that. Now, yes, I understand the defense is not that good. I also understand that even though you do have Max Crosby, you do have Chandler Jones. I also understand, you also have Abrams. I also understand that the offensive line is not that good. But you're telling me that a team that has as much firepower as both the Broncos and the Raiders are not good offensively? Now, I'm not here calling. I've been very vocal about Nathaniel Hackett. I'm not going to lie to you. But I'm not out here calling Josh Jacobs. I'll give you another example. Give me a second. Boom, 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 boom. Boom. Let's talk about the Steelers. The Steelers lost to the Eagles 35-13. The Steelers are not a good team. We know this. But at any point, do you think they're not a good team because of Mike Tomlin? Now, yeah, Mike Tomlin may have something to do with the personnel and how the team was late to get a coach or late to get a quarterback, or the defense falling apart. Even though T.J. Watt is practicing and should be back soon, but they're struggling. The Steelers are struggling, but nobody thinks this is really falls on the feet of Mike Tomlin. What I'm saying is, it's an eye test thing, man. There's no one from the Broncos country, no one in the league can look at the Broncos and think to themselves, that's working. I've said on this podcast multiple times that the Raiders are the best, 2 and 5 team, but that's not because of what they put on the field. It's because of just the talent that they have. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. I don't know, bro. It's Let's move on, man. So the Falcons beat the Panthers 37-34. This game ended in controversy when you have DJ Moore. He scored it on a Hail Mary, took his helmet off, got flagged. The field goal was a lot longer than usual. He missed. Went to overtime. He missed another one. Bada bing, bada boom. They lose. This just goes back to you have to understand awareness. I get celebrating a touchdown. I get celebrating a big touchdown. But you have to understand awareness, bro. Your team is struggling. You're 2-6 now. You have every win is important. And now if you look up, the Falcons are the number one team in the NFC South. You have to and this is a divisional rival in the first. You have to be smarter than that, bro. Another thing I want to talk about from this game is a report that Baker Mayfield has officially been benched for P.J. Washington. P.J. Washington, by the way, who is coming from the XFL. And I keep saying that, but shouts out to P.J. Washington for being able to, have a career resurgence and being the best player that you can be and getting that second chance or getting that chance in the NFL and improving yourself. So shouts out to you, bro. But this is why the Panthers are where they are. And it's not just because of Baker Mayfield. It's decision making. You can see a lot of problems with professional sports teams because of decision making. Do you know how many draft picks the Panthers traded to get both Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold, and both of them are on the bench? Apparently, Baker Mayfield's healthy to play now, but he's lost his job. It's boy. And now you barely have any draft picks. Well, you got some because you traded you had to trade your best player in Christian McCaffrey, your second best wide receiver in Robbie Anderson. The Panthers, it's going to be a tough sledding for the Panthers. Because think about it, even those draft picks that you got from the 49ers, you think any of those draft picks are gonna turn into Christian McCaffrey? I don't know. And on top of that, and again, shouts out to PJ Washington, but is PJ Washington a long-term solution? I don't know, man. The Panthers are in a tough spot. And shouts out to the Falcons. The Falcons are a lot better than I thought. Yeah, the defense still not that good. Offensively, is hit or miss with Marcus Mariota, but hell, they're top of the division. They're the only team I think in the NFC South that's at 500 or above 500, and shouts out to them, man. The Cowboys destroyed the Bears 49-29. It's the Bears. I don't know why people were thinking that game was going to be a lot closer than it was. It's the Bears. I will say that the second half of that game, Justin Fields looked pretty good, but and this is yet another game where the Cowboys leaned on their defense, leaned on their offensive line, leaned on their running game. I know Ezekiel didn't play, but Tony Pollard had a game of his life. So this Cowboys team is a good team. It's crazy to think. I don't know. This team is good. I will say that. And I think that this team is good enough to compete for at least a Super Bowl appearance. That's how good they are in the NFC. And that's also how bad the NFC is. And that's no offense to the Cowboys, but the NFC isn't that good this year at least. Or at least a lot of underachieving teams. But shouts out to the Cowboys for beating the Bears. The Dolphins beat the Lions 31-27. You know what the Dolphins are? The Dolphins are an okay team. The Dolphins are a team. You're not special. They're not the greatest. They have the fastest wide receiver core in NFL history. Like that is a fact. But it's not. They're not special. I know they traded for I think Jeff Wilson in the trade deadline, but they're not that special. And I think that's because of Tua, and Tua has flashes. Tua looks great. We saw what Tua looked like against Baltimore, but this team is not special. And yet another game where the Lions cannot finish. That's how it is. The Vikings beat the Cardinals 34-26. Yet another game. 1 o'clock window. Kirk Cousins looked great. The Vikings team looks great. They're currently 6-1. And yet another game where the Cardinals. We're going to talk about Steve Nash a little later. Trust and believe, bro. I think he's gonna make it to the end of the season, but I can almost assure you that Cliff Kingsbury will not be the head coach of this team next year, unless something drastically happens. This Cliff Kingsbury will not be the coach of the Cardinals. It's just not good. When you have the pieces that they have in the weapon. Now, yes, I understand James Conner didn't play, but you still have Kyler Murray. You still have Nuke, and you're 3-5 now. The Patriots beat the Jets 22-17. This is yet another example. Here's the when you have a young team, you have a lot of up and downs. And that's one of the biggest reasons. That's one of the biggest quote unquote luxuries you have with being a young team. Now, I'll say this. There should be no reason why, even though you did lose Breece Hall, there's no reason why the Jets should have lost that game. The Jets are the better team. The Patriots are the void of any offensively sound team. And the Jets Zach Wilson looked horrible. Now, again, I understand that Breece Hall is out for the season. So it's going to be a lot more on Zach Wilson's hands. But they looked horrible. Horrible. It was bad, man. And that's a big loss too. So the Titans beat the Texans 17-10. Watching the highlights of that game, man, those teams are not that far apart. Even though 5-2 and 1-5-1, those teams are not that far apart. I don't know if that's a compliment on the Texans or disrespect to the Titans. Maybe both. But those teams are not as far as they appear to be. So, yeah. Shouts out to the Commanders for beating the Colts 17-16. Taylor Heineke made a big play, at the end of the game to what's his name? Terry McLaurin. Also, ran in for a touchdown when the waning seconds, So shouts out to you. The 49ers beat the Rams 31-14. Christian McCaffrey had a first player, I think, since LaDainian Tomlinson. Shouts out Brittany for telling me that. From in 2005, I think, for throwing a touchdown, having a reception touchdown, and rushing for a touchdown. Triple crown in the NFL. Shouts out to you, bro. This 49ers team is scary, man. And you saw on Sunday exactly why the 49ers got Christian McCaffrey. He's able to do things, and that's no offense to Deebo Samuel, because we know how great Deebo Samuel is. He does things. He's able to do things that Deebo Samuel cannot do. Christian McCaffrey, when healthy, is one of, if not the best running back in the league. And you put that with a gadget guy or a super gadget guy like Deebo Samuels, Brandon Ayuk, this George Kittle, this team, roster-wise, this is the best team in the league. Roster-wise, the best team in the league. Best team in the league. Now, it also depends on, Jimmy G. Jimmy G, that's a big dependent. We don't know what we're going to get from Jimmy G. But the 49ers just continue to beat the Rams. The Rams just, now I know the Rams beat them in the playoffs last year, but it kind of feels like older brother to little brother. Now the little brother might win a game once or twice, which the Rams did in the playoffs, but the 49ers team be whooping on the Rams, man. So, yeah. Shouts out to Christian McCaffrey. This Christian McCaffrey, to me, makes the 49ers a legit Super Bowl. And the thing is, if they make it to the Super Bowl, they have a good chance of winning. That's how good this acquisition is, and he looks for this team. Or he looks with this team. Christian McCaffrey does. The Seahawks beat the Giants, which is, 27-13. I will say this. I've come in here multiple times. I continue to come in here and talk about the Seahawks and how, their offense is great with Geno Smith, but their defense is terrible. These last 3 to 4 weeks, their defense has been like top 5. And when you have a team, I think offensively is in the top 5 and defensively in the top 5, that means that they're contenders. To me, the Seahawks is the surprise team of the league by far. Like, you lose Russell Wilson. People are speculating that this is going to be Pete Carroll's last year. You have Geno Smith, who has failed to be a backup. and you are 5-3 and one of the best teams in the league. It's insane, man. So shout out to, and you beat a good team, the Giants. The Giants that's been rolling. I think Brian Daboll is at least still the coach of the year in my opinion. It's been great, man. That's crazy. Shout out to you. Shout out to the Seahawks. The Bills beat the Packers 27-17. I expected the Bills to win. Most of America expected the Bills to win. These Packers team's not that good. One thing that I am concerned about, though, is the Bills have not looked good in second halves. Some games they do. They haven't looked consistent. I don't know if that's just because it's they know how good they are and they're kind of just going through the motions, but they haven't looked good consistently in the second half. This game, the Packers game, should have been an easy 41-13 blowout. Like that's what it should have been, but I think they only scored like 3 points in the second half. Like it's for a team with this many weapons, this powerful, this fast, this strong, this big. They only scored like 3 points in the second half against a pretty much rebuilding Packers team at this time. Yeah, no, man, I don't know. But shouts out to the Bills for winning, currently 6-1. And Monday Night Football, you had the Browns beat the Bengals 32-13. You're really starting to see what happens when Jamar Chase isn't here. Now, a lot of it was ugly in the beginning, turnover after turnover, but Tyler Boyd was okay. T. Higgins was okay, but they're not Jamar Chase. And offensive line was giving up sacks. The Bengals offensive line was giving up sacks left and right. It wasn't a good look. It was tough. It was tough. And Joe Burrow, they did a whole special on ESPN. Joe Burrow has never beat the Browns. It's crazy. And the Browns look good. And what's even worse is there was a lot of people out. Like Denzel Ward was out. There was a lot of people out, especially on the defense side. Most of the linebackers, David Njoku, the tight end, was out. And they still handily beat the Bengals. That's crazy. They keep saying the Super Bowl thing isn't real. Yet and still, the Rams are currently 3-4, and the Bengals are currently 4-4. So there's that. Let's move forward. So the trade deadline came and went, and there was some big names that was moved. I mean, this didn't happen exactly at the trade deadline, but the Ravens got Raekwon Smith. That's huge for their defense. The Vikings got T.J. Hawkinson from the Lions, which is also crazy now to think about because that's a divisional rival. Bradley Chubb, the standout from the Broncos, went to the Dolphins. Calvin Ridley, who is currently suspended for the year, he went to Jacksonville. Chase Claypool, who was one of the big wide receiver names, he goes to the Bears. Though there was some big moves, but I'm here. What's frustrating to me, and what I think needs to be talked about is teams that stick too much to tradition. And look, the two teams I'm talking to are the Green Bay Packers and the Baltimore Ravens. Now, more of the Green Bay than Baltimore because Baltimore did make a move to get arguably one of the best linebackers in the league in Raekwon Smith. The Packers have been struggling, and that's an understatement. There's a lot wrong with the Packers. A lot wrong, both offensively and defensively. However, one of the biggest concerns and problems is they don't have a number one receiver. Romeo Doubs could turn into a number one receiver, but he's not that. Alan Lazard is not a number one. Randall Cobb at this age and at this stage of his career is not that. So the biggest, one thing that we heard that the Green Bay Packers were trying to do at the trade deadline was get a number one receiver. And their biggest, probably the best player they could have got at the wide receiver position was Chase Claypool. And instead he goes to the Bears. First of all, I feel bad for Chase Claypool. You go from a Big Ben who's at the end of his career, so he's not the same Big Ben that was winning Super Bowls, to Mr. Trubisky and Kenny Pickett. Now you got Justin Fields. It's unfortunate. And you go from cold Pittsburgh to cold Chicago. But it's like going back to Green Bay. I don't even think they made any moves. Here, let me check my phone while we do this. Hold on. They didn't make any moves. There's no way I could think to myself, if I'm the Packers, the best thing to do is just stay put. In Baltimore, I get it. You want to have a great defense, and their defense has struggled. You have big names: Marlon Humphreys, Marcus Peters, JPP, Calais Campbell, now Roquan Smith. But you've been struggling, and a lot, especially offensively in the second half, because you don't really have a number one receiver. Rashad Bateman can be that, and he shows flashes. However, he's out with a foot injury. Devin Duvernay is not a number one receiver. They're number one receiver. They're trying to do what Cincinnati. No, what am I talking about? Kansas City Chiefs do, and have Travis Kelce be their number one. And Mark Andrews is one of the best tight ends in the league. Let's not get that confused. Also, the connection that Lamar Jackson has with Mark Andrews is special. But you need a number one receiver. Marquise Brown wasn't it. Why is it that, and I'm not saying you could have got Claypool. I'm not saying that because I don't know if the Steelers would do a trade with, the Ravens. But you had Jerry Jeudy. We heard his name out there. Again, you had Calvin Ridley. Clearly, his name was out there. It just doesn't. It doesn't make sense how you would. How the Green Bay Packers can look at their schedule, look at who they played, look at how bad they've lost to good teams, and think to themselves, just stay pat. Hopefully, Alan Lazard and Romeo Doubs can do it. They didn't make a move. And for the Ravens, I'm happy you got Roquan Smith, but the biggest need was on the offensive side of the ball. It's crazy to me, man. It is crazy to me. But, hey, it is what it is, man. Let's move forward. So I want to give my top 5 teams in the league currently, because we're pretty much halfway through the season, and I wanted to give my top 5 teams. So let me start with number 5. I have the Vikings. The Vikings are low key on a 5-game win streak. After going 1-1, they're currently 6-1. They look good. Kirk Cousins looks good. Now, I don't know if they're good enough to win a Super Bowl, but they've been good, and I will give them props and credit on that. Justin Jefferson still looks like one of the best wide receivers in the league. Adam Thielen has made a resurgence. Dalvin Cook is still Dalvin Cook. This team is good. This team is very good. And the defense, one thing that the Vikings have struggled with is balance. Their offense would be good, but their defense would be terrible. Their defense is really good now, and they land number 5 for me. I wouldn't be surprised if they'll make some noise and they'll have something to say. I think the NFC North is far gone at this point, meaning that they're going to win the NFC North unless something drastically happens with them or between them and the Green Bay. I don't see them losing the NFC North. So definitely making the playoffs. I like this Vikings team. I really do. Number 4, I have the 49ers. And the only reason why I have them at number 4 is because of Jimmy G. This is the best roster, in my opinion, in the NFL. One of the best rosters in the NFL, especially when we look at both sides of the ball. You still have a great coach in Kyle Shanahan. What I saw on Sunday from Christian McCaffrey is exactly why the 49ers gave up what they gave up to get him. And this is a scary team. This is a scary team. And we've seen, even with Jimmy G, we've seen them at their best. I have the 49ers at number 4. At number 3, I have the Chiefs. The Chiefs remind me so much of the Golden State Warriors. It's to me, they mimic each other. And it's not just when Golden State Warriors is clicking and they're firing all cylinders, kind of like the Kansas City Chiefs, they're damn near unbeatable. Also, there's times when the Kansas City Chiefs, kind of half-assed, to say the least, and so does Golden State. So to me, Kansas City Chiefs and Golden State Warriors are perfect mirrors of each other. I will say one of the biggest reasons why I have them at 3 is because their defense is still a little sketchy, but their offense is firing on all cylinders with Patrick Mahomes and all the weapons they have. I have the Chiefs. I said before, and I did a video actually about it, that the Cowboys defense is the best unit in football. Right now, to me, that's kind of rivaled by the Kansas City Chiefs offense. So I have Kansas City Chiefs at 3. Number 2, I have the Eagles. Only undefeated team in the league. You get you still have AJ Brown going crazy. Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts looks incredible. You got Robert Quinn. You still have the piece that you have, one of the best, if not the best, offensive line in the league with Kelsey. And the Eagles are the Eagles, bro. The Eagles, I'll say this, again, if they do not make it to the Super Bowl, there's something drastically happened or there was a major letdown. That's how good they've been playing. So I have the Eagles at 2. And at 1, I have the Bills. I have the Bills at number 1. They're still the Bills. Even though they have not looked superior at times, they've still won. They're 6-1. And they just got, I think, a Naheem Hines from the Colts, which is going to help help their run game. That's it. That's the problem I have with the Bills. The Bills are the only good team that I know that just abandons something that when they don't need to. That was their biggest problem against the Packers. They abandoned the run, and they didn't need to. They were dominating the game. Why abandon the run? It doesn't make sense to me. But the Bills are still the Bills. So my top 5 teams, I have the Vikings, the 49ers, the Chiefs, the Eagles, and the Bills. Let me know what you guys' top 5s are. I mean, the hardest one to gauge for me was the Ravens, because it's like, yeah, you're 5-3, but 2 of those 3 games, you could very well be, 7-1 at this point. Some of those games, like, you were up double digits against the Bills, against the Dolphins, and you lose the game. Like, I don't know. So there's that. Those are my top 5 teams. Let me know what you guys feel. Let me know who your top 5 are. So let's move forward. Boy, oh boy, has it been a week for Kyrie Irving and the Brooklyn Nets. Let me first be honest, because I don't think a lot of people that talk about what's going on with Kanye and what's going on with Kyrie, I don't know how honest they are. Let me be honest. I don't know what the hell is going on. I don't know what the hell anti-Semitism means. I know that it's like talking bad about the Jews or something like that. So I'm not the most educated person to speak on this, which is one of the biggest reasons why I have it until it comes to the sports world. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to sit here and be like, I know everything there is to know about anti-Semitism, I don't know much about it. But I do know this. There's a couple things that you just shouldn't do. There's a couple things that you just shouldn't really align yourself with, Like, I don't think it's smart for you to align yourself with literature and text message or in text that, kind of glorify Adolf Hitler. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, that might not be what you want to do. You might not attach yourself to a man in Alex Jones who, while yes, the clip that you put was years upon years ago, but you don't want to attach yourself to a man that was pretty much attacking parents of dead kids. That's what I'm saying. But this is bigger than Kyrie. I told you guys this offseason when you heard, Kevin Durant requested or demanded a trade, and they were trying to trade Kyrie, and of course everything that happened last year. And I told you guys this was going to be a tough year for Brooklyn. Talent-wise, they're incredible. Let's be honest with you. Talent-wise, they're incredible. They're still got Kyrie Irving is still an incredible talent on the floor. Kevin Durant is still Kevin Durant. But there was so many variables that, hell, Kevin Durant, who your best player, called out not only your head coach, but your GM. And nobody knows what the hell Kyrie's doing. And now with the whole anti-Semitic thing, you have people in the NBA and people outside the NBA calling for him to at least be suspended. Now, Steve Nash gets fired. And while that's a little shocking that you fire him this early, you can kind of see the writing on the wall, not only when Kevin Durant requested a trade, but it hasn't been working. This team has not made it to a conference finals. A team this talented has not, and you had James Harden, has not made it to a conference finals. And now when you look, Ben Simmons, I'm not going to say he's not working out, but he hasn't really put his best foot forward. Kyrie Irving and KD are playing, off the wall as far as offensively, but defensively, I think the Brooklyn Nets are the worst team in the league. And then you bring in Ime Udoka or that's getting finalized. We know what happened in Boston. Boston. For a team this early in the season, it has been so loud. And then if you look up, do you think this team is a championship team? And that to me is the biggest problem. There's no way you can think this is a championship team, even though they have two former champions and two offensively superior players. There's no way you can look at this Brooklyn Nets team and think, yeah, this is a championship team. I will say this. Unless something drastic happens, meaning unless the Brooklyn Nets win a championship, this team will not look the same next year. I will predict now. What's today? Today is November 2nd. I will predict Kyrie Irving for sure will not be on this team. And I don't know if Kevin Durant will be on this team. It's just been too much noise, and the noise hasn't produced any wins. Their biggest win of the season so far, which I know is early, but they needed that win against the Pacers instead of losing to them twice in like 2 days or something. The Brooklyn Nets are a mess. And it goes back to what I said before when Kevin Durant demanded trade. The problem the Brooklyn Nets, the where they went wrong is you gave people that already have demonstrated that they don't want power. You gave them the most power in the organization, and now the Brooklyn Nets is crumbling as an organization. I understand that Seth Curry is not playing. I understand that they're still trying to get Joe Harris back into the groove. But do you think now Seth Curry will help? But you think that's going to drastically change things? They're still going to be terrible. In fact, they're probably going to be worse defensively when Seth Curry plays because he's not a good defender. And unlike the Los Angeles Lakers, Brooklyn's problem is not offense. It is defense. Oh, man. It's bad. Do I think Kyrie should have been suspended for being anti-Semitic? Or, I'm not going to say he was anti-Semitic. Promoting, and that's what it was, Kyrie. It was promoting. When you're putting something on your platform, you're promoting it. That's what it is. Like, I know that you went back and forth with Nick Friedel. If you put something, especially as large of a platform that you have, that's promoting it. Just like if you put, I don't know, Crocs. If you put Crocs on your Instagram, I'm almost sure the sales were Crocs from Grow Up. You're promoting Crocs. You were promoting whatever the hell you promoted, the book or movie or something, which had multiple quotes from Hitler and pretty much saying he was great and stuff. I don't know about that, brother, but I do think I don't know. I don't think there is really anything much you can do. I mean, at that point, you're pretty much blocking someone's freedom of speech. Now, that's a lot of the what's the word? I guess that's the problem that a lot of people have with all these companies and Kanye. And my thing is, I don't think they're canceling him as much as they are distancing themselves. You have a freedom to say whatever you want, but what people do not understand is, yeah, you have the freedom to say what you want, but that doesn't mean that there's not consequences that come after what you say. And as we're seeing, consequences. So I don't know if he should have been. I mean, he just promoted a book and a movie, but still, the Brooklyn Nets are a mess. Again, Steve Nash is out. We kind of knew that was going to happen, but it happened sooner than later. And they're bringing in Ime Udoka. I will say this. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what happened off the court, which got him suspended for the year from Boston. But I do think that Ime would be a good coach. I think you need somebody in the room that they respect. And it didn't really seem like the team as a whole respected Steve Nash. And Ime Udoka, we saw what he took or how he took Boston and at least got them to the finals. I don't know if that's going to happen with Brooklyn, but I do think that is somebody in the room that they respect and can really get a handle on Kyrie and KD, and we'll see where it goes. So, and lastly, before we go, I just want to say, man, this Kawhi Leonard thing is Kawhi Leonard situation is really concerning to me. I mean, he's going to miss the next 3 to 5 games. Now, first, Kawhi Leonard, I think, has only played one game this year. And now they're saying he's going to miss the next, 3 to 5 games due to knee management. I understand I understand it's a marathon, not a race. And you don't really care about having Kawhi, a lot of Ks, Kawhi in the beginning of the season. You want him at the end, especially when you're a team like the Clippers that have championship aspirations. But the thing is, Kawhi didn't play all last year, and he missed most of the previous year. And I understand it's an ACL and whatever, but you didn't play all last year, and you're still hurt. We talk about Anthony Davis all the time being hurt. Anthony Davis has played more games in the last few years than Kawhi has. And I think he's played more games than Paul George has. Now, Paul George has been hooping. He did just hit a game winner the other night. But this Kawhi Leonard thing is getting concerning to me. Because it's like at some point you're going to need to get back on the court and get your legs back and get back into basketball shape. Because the last thing you want to do is be the star player and have to get back into basketball shape closer to the playoffs than now. It takes about, from what a lot of stars are saying, it takes about 15 to 20 games. The last thing you want to do is do that close to the playoffs. So this Kawhi Leonard thing is getting really, concerning to me. But there you have it. That's been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I appreciate you guys. If you want a Popular Podcast shirt, hoodie, sweater, long sleeve joggers, link is in the description below. I have multiple different colors, multiple different designs. Get your Unpopular Podcast merch today. Also, please subscribe to every listening. Please subscribe to every watching. It definitely means a lot to me. And until next time, much love.